So yesterday I watched the fashion documentary True Cost, and to be honest, it absolutely broke my heart. A lot of times I was at the brink of tears, and I came out after that documentary really sad. I made a few notes that I wanted to remember, and I thought I would share it with you guys. So if you're familiar with my channel, you know that I've talked about minimalism quite a few times. I have a lot of videos on that topic, but on the other spectrum, I also talk about materialism. And this documentary for me personally really highlighted the problem of this culture of materialism. Our culture nowadays really values buying things and getting new things, especially clothes. We buy new things because we feel like it will make us happier, it will make us better, it will make us prettier, and it will magically kind of solve our problems, or at least make it feel like everything's all right. And a lot of this is also due to advertising. They are the experts. They know what to tell the customer in order to influence them. They know how to appeal to us psychologically. There was a copywriter once called Ernest Elmo Calkins, and he talked about there being two types of products. There is the type of product that is used up. Things like shampoo or chocolate or chewing gum. These are things that can be used up, and once we use them up, we will want to buy some more. But then on the other hand, there are things that are used. Those are things like maybe furniture, clothes, a car, just things that we use but aren't going to be used up in a sense. And he said the goal of advertising should be to get people to treat the things that you use as things that you use up. And that, I would say, is kind of the way our culture has shifted towards. We tend to buy clothes just because there's a new occasion, or we tend to buy new furniture just because we have a new apartment. And we tend to always want to upgrade and renew and always have the latest and newest things. And I remember my dad telling me the story of how he bought this one pair of jeans. It was this whole ordeal where they went to the store and he thought about it for so long, and when he bought that pair of jeans, he wanted to make sure that that was the best pair of jeans there was for him. And when he bought those pair of jeans, that was the pair of jeans that he was going to wear for as long as it lasted, until it fell apart. That was his pair of jeans. And until today, my dad still has knit sweaters that are maybe even older than I am, but if they are still intact, if they still work, if they're still good, why not hold onto a sweater for 20 years? You don't always need to have the newest edition of things. I personally feel like it is a really dangerous way of thinking and living that we are in right now. The goal of companies and the industry is to get you to buy more, to treat things you use as things that you would use up. And a way to get you to do that is to cut down the prices. If something is really cheap, you're not going to think about it too much. You're just going to buy it because it was cheap anyways. And you might even buy 2, 3, 4 shirts than the one that you needed because it's cheap. But at the same time, the cost of production has actually even gone up since the 60s. But how is that possible? How is the cost of production going up, but at the same time, the price for the consumer is going down? The only way that can work is when they cut costs somewhere else. And the result of that is companies cutting costs when it comes to the environment and also when it comes to human rights. And now these are things that us people, especially in the West, don't get to see. We don't see the environment being treated horribly and people being exploited because it's not in front of our eyes. It's somewhere in a different country where we don't see it. And when we don't see it, we can kind of mentally block it out. So let's talk about the environment. Through the industrialization, we needed things bigger, more, faster. And when it comes to, for example, t-shirts, the companies want you to buy more t-shirts and faster and use them up faster and rotate it faster. That means they need more cotton to sustain this. There's this company called Monsanto. I think now they're sold to the company Bayer, but the company Monsanto went into the business of seeds. They created genetically modified seeds, and these were seeds that are more pesticide resistant, so that you could spray your field with a lot of very harmful pesticides and the soil would be absolutely toxic, but because these seeds were genetically modified, they were pretty much the only thing that was able to grow there. And so they sold these seeds to the farmers at a very high price. And because these plants were so resistant, you needed even more powerful chemicals as pesticides. And the farmers were just really hooked to this company. You had to go to them for these seeds, you had to go to them for the pesticides, and they had the monopoly on the price. They could say whatever they want. And these farmers really bankrupted themselves, and they had large amounts of debt with these companies. And someday the company would come and say, hey, you owe me so much money, pay me right now or your land is mine. And the land is the only thing that the farmer had. With this, the rise in suicides within the farmer communities rose up drastically because they had just lost everything to this company. Their land was being taken away. That was the only thing they had. This is something that they had talked about in the documentary True Cost, and specifically they talked about this area in India called Punjab. And they also talked about how there was so much pesticides being sprayed in this area that there were a lot of health side effects within the people that lived in that area. There were lots of people with cancer, with birth deficiencies and mental health issues. And this is absolutely horrible. It absolutely broke my heart. Just because it's something that doesn't happen right outside our door, I feel like we tend to ignore it or not want to acknowledge it. This is personally also why I really like to shop for organic cotton whenever possible, so that I don't buy into or support this system. Another big problem that comes with this fast fashion is that since they want you to buy more and buy new and over again, you can't have this endless amount of space in your closet, so you're going to have to declutter. And there's so many videos here on YouTube where people declutter their clothes and donate them, and I've done that too. But people kind of view donating your clothes as something good because you're kind of giving clothes you don't need to people who need it. But it's actually not that simple. There's so much clothes going into donations. There aren't that many people that need so many clothes. So what ends up happening is about 10% of the clothes that are being donated are actually sold, and the rest is being dumped into third world countries where there are just piles and piles of clothes, and they don't even need that much clothes. Once again, it's not something that is happening outside our front door. It's not something that's happening in our country. That's why it's something that you don't realize, or maybe we don't want to acknowledge. And the documentary also talked about the landfills, that when you take a look at the landfills, a lot of that is actually textiles and clothes. We are throwing away so much clothes because we always want the newest thing. 11 million pounds of clothes thrown away each year by the United States alone, and the majority of the clothes that are thrown away are actually not biodegradable. When I look about for clothes, I always make sure to look at what material it is made from. Especially for women's clothes, when you look at the materials they're made of, most of the time there's some type of plastic in it, whether it's polyester, nylon, and those things are not biodegradable. It's just as bad as a plastic bag. It will only turn into microplastic and pollute the earth and pollute our waters and pollute the environment, which is why I make sure to shop for clothes with natural materials in it. Now let's talk about the human rights issue. Now this is something that has come to light more in the recent years, that these huge brands like Zara and H&M, and they go to countries like India or Bangladesh and produce their clothes there because it's super cheap, and the factories and the labor work, everything is really cheap, and oftentimes they are regulated horribly, and there has been news of factories collapsing and a lot of people dying. And in this documentary, they also talked about how the workers, they want more rights. They're being treated horribly. And this one woman who is as old as I am, she was only 23, talked about how they were beaten for wanting more, and the factory owners, they wanted to show them who's in charge, and that almost brought me to tears. That really broke my heart. I feel like it just really puts into perspective how incredibly fortunate and privileged I am. All we see is the design or how it will probably make us feel, but we don't think about how the things are actually produced and what hands the piece of clothing went through. And I guess something that's a good thing is that nowadays things like sustainability and ethical practices are kind of a hot topic. It is something that consumers are starting to demand more, and with this the companies are trying to meet the consumers' demands. And we have a lot of companies, including companies like H&M, that are saying, well, we have ethical standards, we have this protocol, we are doing all this right, but that's what's on their paper. But when you actually go to the factories, oftentimes the result is that it's actually not as they said it is. So something that people have been pushing for is to make ethical, sustainable standards law. But when that is the case, the companies are often always against it. They are advocates for these ethical, sustainable standards to be voluntary. Goal of the company is to make more money. They want to see higher profits than the last year. When you focus so much on making more profit, you forget the environment, you forget people's rights, and that is not a place where we can lack. I don't think that people would want to buy pieces of clothing if they actually saw the history behind it, or how it actually came here. If they saw that this shirt is actually bloodstained, they wouldn't want to buy it. At least that's what I want to believe. All we see is the end product, the shiny new design that is hanging in this beautifully lit, shiny mall, and we want it because society kind of tells us we need that to feel happy, or the advertising tells us that. But we don't see the behind the scenes, we don't see the backstage, the people, how they created this piece of garment, what they went through. I would say yes, the fashion industry is a big problem, and we need to make them accountable for these things that have been neglected so far. But I don't think that's the only problem. There's something far easier to change, I would say, and that starts with ourselves. I feel like our culture is just too focused on things and new things and buying things, and just too focused on materialism, and we have to shift away from this mindset. It's actually something really new. In the 60s, 70s, 80s, it wasn't so materialistic as it is right now, and studies have only shown that it makes us more depressed and less happy, but still we strive towards those shiny objects because we think it makes us happy, but it doesn't. We can't think of things we use as things we use up anymore. This documentary was really, really good. I highly encourage everyone to watch this, and my boyfriend, he's watched it before and he's been telling me to watch it, but I've always thought, well, I know that the fast fashion industry is bad, and I'm not buying into fast fashion industry anyway, so I don't need to watch it. But even though I thought I was so educated on this topic, when I watched this documentary, it absolutely blew my mind. It made me so sad and angry at the same time, and I think everyone should watch it. Even if you think that you know the topic, I promise you, you will probably watch this and learn something new that will absolutely devastate you. The documentary is actually available on YouTube for free, so I will link it down below, and I truly, truly encourage you to watch it. And after the documentary, I felt really helpless, like I wanted to help them, but I didn't know how. But when I thought about it, it's not true. We can help them. We as consumers are extremely, extremely powerful. The companies will do what we want because we have the money that they want, and the power lies within us. So we can choose what company we want to support. And if there's something that we don't like, then we don't have to support it. We can take away the power of the company by not buying their stuff and not supporting their cause. I feel like this video was all over the place because I just had so many emotions in this topic, but I really encourage you to firstly watch this documentary, and secondly, try to maybe think about materialism, try to shift your mindset and think about the resources on this planet that are limited, but also the people that are behind this, that are producing this. Think of them and remember the power that you have as a consumer, and use that wisely. Don't support companies that you don't want to support. Don't feel like you have to. I truly hope that this documentary sparks this type of emotion that I'm feeling right now through this documentary. It really made me want to do something and change something, and I'm definitely going to change my behavior, even though I haven't been super materialistic, I want to be even more strict with myself when it comes to buying new things, especially when it comes to the fashion industry. Thank you so much for watching today's video. It was more of a difficult, sad topic, but I feel like it is something important. So comment down below if you watched the documentary. It'd make me really happy to see you guys watch it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.